From beyond the farthest reaches of our galaxy they come. Two brains pulsing with a strange energy. These space brains come to share their love of science fiction movies.
Hi, welcome to Space Brains, the show where we joy watch sci-fi movies and then talk about what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey and this is Mark.
Hiya, it's episode 59 and we are talking about science fiction film Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. Came out in 2004, Surrey. In this episode, we will reveal what we thought about the film, the ins and outs of the narrative, if this film had a narrative, plus
what I can remember of the narrative.
What you can remember, yeah, because I deleted it, of the film, plus we were looking at the film language, because it is a film, plus a deep dive into a specific piece of science that the filmmakers are proposing. Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind was directed by Michel Gondry and written by the one and only Charlie Kaufman. So if you sit down to watch this, expect your mind to be blown away.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's so interesting, in fact, we're going to spoil it later on. So this is your spoiler warning.
Warning.
Go back, watch the film if you haven't. Watch the second time. Hey, why not? And then join us again as we discuss everything about this film.
Everything and nothing, because I can't remember it. So basically, this film is about a relationship that turns sour. The couple undergoes a medical procedure to have each other erased from their memories.
Apparently that medical procedure requires Mark Ruffalo to jump on your bed.
With Kirsten Dunst.
Yes, that's pretty cool.
In their underwear.
That would be... I've dreamt about that. I'm sure of it.
I'm sure you dreamt about Mark Ruffalo in his underwear. That's fine.
Well, isn't he the Hulk?
He's the latest version of Hulk,
latest
right?
version of Hulk.
Yeah.
There was a Ned Norton and a Eric Bana.
Eric Bana. If you're out there, Eric, let us know what you thought about Mark Ruffalo jumping around in his underwear with Kirsten Dunst.
On Jim Carrey's bed.
On Jim Carrey's bed. And why weren't you invited, damn it, Eric? Jeez. We all know Peter would have been, though. Porter. What was your number one takeaway from Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind? I always get the title of this confused in my brain. Sorry. What was your number one takeaway?
My number one takeaway is that you can use indie filmmaking techniques with big name stars.
Definitely.
To good effect.
Well and truly.
It was good. I love this film that it was all these stars. I'm pretty sure Jim Carrey took the role.
Yeah.
Because this smells like Jim Carrey, his movies, particularly at that time of his career. He was into this sort of thing. And then, no doubt, Kirsten Dunst and Mark Ruffalo and
Kate
Elijah
Winslet.
Wood and Kate Winslet, they all heard, Jim Carrey's doing some interesting movie or whatever. Yes, I will be in it. I can't think of any other reason why you'd get so many known names to all act together in this fashion.
They must have taken a bit of a pay cut because it was a $20 million budget, so not huge for the time. I mean, when we go back to then, Kirsten Dunst, Mark Ruffalo, are they just starting on their careers? They probably sort of are.
Kirsten Dunst is a bit Spider-Man. I think that's about it.
A pretty similar vintage. Whereas Elijah Wood and Jim Carrey, obviously, megastar, and Kate Winslet, Titanic was a few years earlier. So
yeah, it's only like 7 years, 7 years earlier.
But you do get this every often, don't you? Like a superstar like Jim Carrey, it's like comedy, and then they go, I want to make something weird, get me something weird, or get me a drama, or I want to be a drama. Adam Sandler did it as well. And when you just look at any of these actors, like the same with action stars, they always then suddenly look at doing a family comedy.
They always have to do a Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah, Kindergarten Cop. What's his name? The Rock did Tooth Fairy. It's like they suddenly do something and they take a pay cut for it because they're interested in changing their directory a bit. So I do think Jim Carrey took the huge sidestep on this because he was a bit over Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber and those kinds of films.
I have to say that with Jim Carrey, much like Tom Hanks, my opinion is both of those actors start off as comedy actors, much better drama, serious actors.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Like Tom Hanks as a comedian was born out of a time where he just shouted as comedy. A bit like Steve Martin's comedy sort of tended in his movies, tended to devolve into shouting. You know, incredulous, I can't believe this is happening! And Jim Carrey was heading that way too. And when Tom Hanks went and did, say, he did like the You Got Mail and then I guess Castaway most famously.
We did the romantic comedy first sort of thing, didn't he? And then shifted over,
Yeah, I think he was brilliant in Castaway.
Yeah.
And Jim Carrey, likewise, he sort of doing these comedy stuff. Truman Show, I think, was where he moved in. Still, you could say there was some comedic elements in there.
In Truman,
but it was most certainly not a comedy. Yeah. And then after that, he went and did his, number 23?
Number 23.
And,
I mean, is that a sci-fi film, number 23?
Oh, it's kind of psychological deep dive, isn't it?
And I think even Truman Show's kind of sci-fi as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a sci-fi
psychological experiment.
And then this Spotless Mind, I think that there seems to be something about that type of comedian that does a really good serious. Whereas if you look at Matt LeBlanc from Friends, he went and did that Lost in Space, which I quite enjoyed that film.
Yep.
But watching him playing what was supposed to be a serious character, who was supposed to be taken seriously, I was always just waiting for Joe Tribbiani to say something. Like in my eyes, he could not break away from that.
Yeah.
And I think that movie would have just really gone downhill. Like, I don't think it did particularly well in general, but it would have totally bombed if he had had any humorous lines to say in that at all. Yeah. If he'd said anything that was funny, then it just would have lost.
Fair enough.
Any credibility. But yeah, so Jim Carrey comes out, bit of an independent film, and some of the techniques in this, I'm sure you'll let us know about them as we go along. It was just interesting to see these actors, who I'm used to seeing in much fancier films with all of the much fancier camera work and effects. Some of these scenes were almost handycam sort of scenes.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about that as we go through the plot. But there's definitely a style in this film. Like, there's a style, and so. Yeah, there's the indie filmmaker, but it's still a $20 million film, so there's nothing wrong with the camera you use, and there's nothing wrong with the sound devices.
No, it was entirely intentional.
There is a deliberate style. The other thing is Michel Gondry is renowned for music video clips and really experimental,
that makes
weird
a lot of sense, actually.
Music clips. And even after this film, I know I went and saw It's not sci-fi, Be Kind, Rewind with Mos Def and Jack Black, and I mean, it was sort of almost like he was born to make that film because he's a music filmmaker. He's a music, what's the word? He's a music
video
filmmaker. As in, he does that really, really well, that sort of short film narrative for music videos. And if you go back and look at some of the stuff he's made, some of the classic indie music songs and stuff that he's covered and made clips, there's some weird ass stuff he's made. So when this film came out, it was almost like, I think a lot of people, it's a weird film, this film. Like, it's weird. Like, what you have straight away joked about, can you remember this story? Can you remember what actually happened? Like, what actually happened in this film? It's sort of the point of the film as well. So it's kind of great. Automatically, the stuff that you're saying, from my point of view, I'm thinking, I think the filmmaker's achieved what he wanted to say. Like,
absolutely.
It's not supposed to look like Independence Day. You know what I mean? Like, it's not supposed to look like Terminator 2 or Terminator 3 or whatever.
It's supposed to look like indie.
You're supposed to look like an indie. No, but it's supposed to, like, the whole point is we're going down this deep dive of someone's memories, so it's supposed to look like memories, right? So it's not supposed to be clean and sharp and brightly lit and stuff.
It has that home video feel to it.
Yeah, like our memories do.
Some parts of it do. And he does it well because there are parts that are in his memory and parts that are in the real world. And in the real world is more conventional. And in his memory, we're getting more flick. Anyway,
We'll get into that.
So, is this an experiment, a hope experiment, or a warning?
I'm going to chuck it in the hope category because of, and look, we have spoiled it, so I'm going to go straight to the end. If you haven't seen it, stop right now and go watch it. The reason why I'm going to say hope is that basically this is a romantic sci-fi. It's based on a couple. They're deleting their memories because they don't like each other that much. And yet at the end of the film, when they realise they've already had a relationship and both decided to delete the memories, they decide, yeah, but let's just do it again. And so this is where hope for me comes in, that as humans, even when we know relationships don't really work, it's kind of the experience of the relationship that's worth it, right? You sort of realize that it's I mean, you're a dad as well, and I'm a dad, and we're married, and married life is like this. Like, even if you're happily married, there's the boring bits, there's the cleaning the dishes, there's the cleaning the toilet, there's the paying the bills, there's the doing the stuff with the kids. You can go out there and even with your kids, in Hollywood, what do they do? Play catch, right? And it's like that memory moment. You can do that with your kid, right? But then you still got to get that kid to go to bed. You still got to get that. You got to feed that kid. You got to wake up in the morning.
I might also point out that
pour milk.
Playing catch is quite boring.
Yeah, it's still boring to play catch, but the whole point of playing catch is more like a memory, a nice moment. This is the Kodak moment.
That's why I go fishing. Right? I don't catch any fish. I'd like to catch fish to eat, but and let's face it, standing there just walking around not catching fish is kind of boring.
It's boring,
but it is nice that you get to spend the time with your child.
Yeah.
Being bored together.
Yeah, I guess.
I
you
think,
weirdos into fishing.
I think we both appreciate it in some way. I know neither of us into fishing. I think it's just...
You appreciate that time. But
it's something we can do.
So the whole point here is I think this film is saying that relationships are not Kodak moments. They're not Hollywood films, even though this is a big Hollywood film. But it's they're not Hollywood films. And here at the end of this story, we have a couple that are kind of we were in a relationship and it was kind of shit, but there was some good bits. And then we now realize that we had a relationship. Should we go around again and have another relationship? And they're basically deciding, it's okay to have the shit bits. That's my interpretation of this film.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that's where the hope comes.
Yeah, it's not a warning, although there are some elements of warning in here. I think with Kirsten Dunst's character,
yes,
that was kind of a bit dark. I think, and then it's a bit experimental, I suppose. But they didn't really experiment with the idea. What would you do if you could delete your memory? It happened once. It wasn't a case of tinkering left, right, and centre, which is normally where the experiment would go. Would be, okay, well, if I can, rewrite memories or delete memories, what would happen if we could do that in society? We didn't look at that. What we looked at is
that
what would you, are we destined to have only bad situations stay bad situations?
Yeah.
And the answer to this, of course, as you said, is no, because there are good situations too.
Yeah. And I mean, the Kirsten Dunst, she... I think the thing is, and it's the same even with our main characters and with Kirsten Dunst, so basically, before we get stuck into that plot, to remind you, Kirsten Dunst, we find out she's kind of had a thing for the doctor, the boss, and that's actually occurred, and then she's requested her memories be deleted. And then in the story, we're seeing her kind of crack on to the boss and kiss him, and then find out that she's already sort of done that previously and wanted to delete that. And maybe when you think about that, both with her character story, her sort of C story or whatever, plus our main characters, that they are actually saying to us that memory is one thing, so you can delete memory, but then maybe fate comes into play, or our desires are stronger than memory. You know what I mean? That sort of... because even with Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, it's almost like they've had a shitty relationship, deleted their memories, but they end back up together.
Yeah,
you kind of can't stop it.
There's that memory of Montauk Bay.
Yeah,
where
so they can't help but get back to each other.
They both found themselves drawn back to there. They didn't know why at the time.
Yeah.
But clearly it was a significance.
Yeah. And from what the science shows us in this film is that then they don't... Like, he's lost those memories. They're gone. They're not coming back, but he's still drawn to go back to her. So it's sort of some sort of weird feeling of
I really like
connection.
I really like the ending, and I think we'll cover the ending a little bit more as we go along. But in the meantime, what was the science fiction thing you liked in this film?
Well, I liked that, I think just because we're talking about, I liked that we went into the memory path, and unlike then, another film could be the same story, right? But then it's all about, I think what you were just proposing is like, oh, let's take the most dangerous criminals, Nicolas Cage, and delete his memory, and then implant it with someone else's memory, and then we go on a journey where Nicolas Cage has to like decipher that he didn't actually murder the president's wife.
That sounds like a good film. I'd watch that.
Right. But this story was about, it made the science, and when we went to the doctors, it made the science so much more simpler in this story. And also, when we went there, it's kind of this like shitty little
I love that.
upstairs. I loved that, and I also loved like how they did those little cards where they said like, don't talk about this person anymore because they had their memories deleted. And when Jim Carrey's like waiting, like the lady next to him, it's obviously like a pet that she wants to delete the memory
that's sad.
of.
Why would you want your pet
I don't know
memory
why
deleted?
because pets are pets. They're all fine. They're not like kids or anything or wives. I mean, Jesus,
I can understand deleting a bad relationship. Like,
yeah, I know.
If you had
an
an abusive relationship that totally messed you up.
That's true. That's very
totally
true.
understand it. But yeah, I mean, what sort of relationship would you have a dog that would mean you'd want to delete that memory?
I know. It's a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but I liked how the office was so shitty and those little yellow envelopes that they sent out to everyone. And so rather than my joke of Nicolas Cage killing the president's wife in a story and having to find out that he didn't do it or whatever, Ving Rhames did it. And, instead of that, like, we had this sort of, like, shitty science sort of stuff. And even, like, Mark Ruffalo and Kirsten Dunst, and none of them seemed very sophisticated, did they?
No, they weren't. And they had, like, this shitty little laptop.
They sort of had crap equipment, yeah.
The probe thing on Jim Carrey's head looked a lot like Doc Brown's mind-reading device that doesn't work in Back to the Future.
So it was all kind of a bit cruddy, right?
Like a colander with some lights on it.
Yeah, so I guess my thing with the science was that the science was downplayed a bit and it was a bit sort of shitty science.
I think so. The good thing with that is it doesn't make you go, oh, that's so unbelievable. Because it's so pedestrian, it's almost more believable because how many times have you gone, oh, we're going to do something amazing we're going to go on this aeroplane, and you get on and it's kind of like it's underwhelming.
The logistics
It looks just like the inside of an old battered bus and the seats are a bit worn and you sort of, oh, okay.
Oh, this is it. It's going in the sky. Yeah, it's going in the sky. Buckle up.
Okay. Yeah, and you say, okay, well, yep, fine. But if they'd made it go into, what's one of these films where they do that? They go into one of these lab buildings and it's all suddenly, as
crystal
opposed to
clear white,
the rest of the world is just like a normal modern city. And they go in, it's all white and smooth. And it looks like you're inside of an iPhone. Like there's people wearing special uniforms and
holograms.
It's all beautiful and wonderful. And if it was like that, it would be like too oversold. And you'd be going, well, hold on, how does this really work?
Yes.
Whereas this was just like, some tired-looking psychologist or psychiatrist in an office that's just sort of in a normal strip mall or something like. Yeah. Like you'd expect, like a dentist office would be next door, and the tax accountant's across the way, and he's got boxes of filing cards and no sophisticated anything.
Yes. So I really liked that. That was a sci-fi bit I liked. What about a favourite scene, Surrey?
Favourite scene, I really liked. An honourable mention is when Jim Carrey first walks into the office and goes in to talk to Dr. Harold or whatever his name was. Is it Howard? Howard, I think it is.
Howard.
Yeah, he goes in to talk with Howard, and there's like some older woman with a head looks like in one of the hair dryers from the barber shops in the American movies. I don't know, do those things really exist? I guess they must be up for perms.
Yeah.
Must be like a hangover thing from 70s and 80s or something.
Yeah, I think they did back in the...
But that's what it looks like. Looks like she's sitting in a barber's chair with a perm dryer on her head, and she's kind of looking all weird.
Fritzing away.
I like that because it plays in, as you said, to that low text sort of thing where you're trying to find out, oh, she's had a memory erased apparently, and he's trying to find out what the deal is. And yeah, it looks so ordinary, but when they're telling you that they're having memories of relationships removed, it's so fantastical at the same time. So that's an honourable mention. But the scene I actually liked, there's when he's going through his memories and he goes into the bookstore to give her a gift, and she doesn't recognise him because she's had a memory erased, but he doesn't know that, and she's talking to Patrick, and then he sort of gets a bit frustrated and then leaves, but he doesn't walk. The bookshop just kind of starts fading away from him, like Keanu Reeves is getting his guns in The Matrix.
Yes.
And he steps back out through the door and sits on his own steps, and the light fades, and that was the this whole room changed, very very dream thing, and that was just done so smoothly and naturally. There was no jarring moment of hey what, there was no Inception folding of street lines or anything. It was just that is the scene. Actually, you've mentioned this Gondry. What's it?
Yeah, Gondry.
Gondry. Those music video clips.
Yep.
That's a music video clip.
Yeah.
Right there. Just that. I swear I've seen that done before.
Yeah.
But it was just, you don't see it in movies.
No.
Not without more fanfare and flair. And this was so smooth. And then he sat down and he just started talking. It actually took me just that extra second or two to realise that he was in his house, but no, that's not his house through there. That's actually the bookstore.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's just and that's just representative of a number of scenes that happen in this movie with that same feeling where it's like the scene sort of morphs and moves into another scene.
Yeah.
And there's just that moment of confusion where you're trying to marry the two and you're trying to figure out where the cutover was, and it's not much, but there's definitely you always have to that second
seamless,
take of hang on. And that was good. So
I guess symbolically, that's kind of like dreams and memories, right? Like it's very dreamlike that, and definitely, I think Gondry probably wanted to do that effect, as in like, we are in someone's mind and memories aren't exactly accurate, and you transfer. So you can be walking out of a bookstore. That's the last thing last time I saw you, Surrey, I was walking out of a bookstore, and then I was at home and I was telling my wife that I'd saw Surrey. Like, we delete the boring bits, right? Like, that's what we do as humans. We're renowned for that. Like, talk to a detective. We get rid of the bullshit.
Yeah.
And like a movie does as well. And so, but you're exactly right. In this movie, we sort of saw that actually occurring.
Yes, because normally you would see him walk out of the bookstore, hard cut. He sits down at the table and talks to his friend. And but as an audience member, you go, oh, he has travelled there.
Yeah.
Whereas, and in reality, though, he's only just magically appeared there.
Yeah.
But we saw the magical appearing.
We saw we saw him walk out of one room into the next room, and we could see that. Oh, hang on, and then that room is like dark.
Yeah, it darkens often.
Hang on, so is the bookstore actually in there? It kind of is in his memory, I guess. So that's one thing. So what about anything you're up to creatively, Surrey? Anything sci-fi related or creatively?
Yeah, I've been doing. I did my little short film. I sort of filmed short film, sort of an advert, I suppose, for Space Brains. I had a little idea when I was thinking, there's all these people make short films for this film festival.
Yeah.
It'd be really good if we had like a couple little pretendy ones for ourselves. And I thought, but I don't want to have to, speaking to you, there's a lot of organising of people and places and shots. So I went, what can I do just in my one room with myself and my camera?
Yeah.
And so I thought, what about that whole multiplicity deal?
Yeah.
So there's 3 Surreys, all say they've cloned the other in order to go off and do work, but they each just want to edit Space Brains and watch science fiction movies.
Fair enough.
So
who doesn't?
So I've put together a rough edit of that, and I've got to do a bit of sound work on it because something I've noticed, and I never noticed this with films, I've been really paying attention. I cut from a close up on me to then a shot of feet walking, and then like a wider shot, and then back into a sort of a shoulder height shot and things, and those cuts are really jarring.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, how the hell? Why are they so jarring? And how the hell do filmmakers make them look more natural? And so I was watching Spotless Mind and Stranger Things. I was watching Stranger Things, paying attention, and I realised that one of the main ways of making them seem together is sound. Because of course it is literally, a camera shot at me and then camera shot everywhere else, and there's all just different ambient sound, and there's different volumes, and my dialogue, I'm not intending to keep the dialogue that I recorded on camera because I'm just using a phone camera. Like mic is rubbish. So what I want to do is I want to capture the dialogue so I could hear it, and when it was done, and then I'll do some dialogue replacement.
Some ADR. Some ADR.
So at first I was thinking, I'm going to have to chuck all this out. This is all rubbish. And to be fair, it's not especially skillfully shot and acted.
You're telling me you didn't create a sound design? On location sound design?
Well, no, not on location. No, that's what's that film school that does all? You've got to have your all sound is diegetic, and it's all got to be. I can't remember.
Well, that is sound. I'm not sure specifically your reference.
No. There's some Scandinavian school of filmmaking that says that the films should be rooted in the reality, and you should use as few non-real locations as possible, and there's kind of like this checklist of stuff in order to fit into this particular school of film. And the sound is one of those things. Is the sound should be as much in the filming rather than being added on as Foley afterwards.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, you do get your French cinema of like the 60s and the 70s, that kind of that cinema wave that, they were more what happened in the 90s in America with sort of indie cinema, stuff like this sort of film would be kind of considered that similar style in a way. Yeah. Funny enough, Michel Gondry is French as well, so maybe that's a little bit wild. But I get what you get.
So I can't remember off the top of my head the name of this particular approach.
So what's your lesson? You're realizing that sound is hard in film. Is that
what I was listening? What I learned is that all the cuts and everything, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to have to chuck them, like the whole bunch of it. And I thought, no, actually, it's probably worth my while pushing ahead and doing the sound and getting some music. I was thinking of recording some of my own music and doing the dialogue and seeing and then adjusting color gradients and so forth to match and see if that changes things. Cause
you don't have Lady Gaga on retainer somewhere to make your soundtrack?
Well, I don't need her on retainer. She's just a good mate of mine.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Or at least the woman down the road, she calls herself Lady Gaga. And she was wearing a lot of food at one stage, so...
I'd get her doing the soundtrack, definitely.
Yeah, for sure, mate.
For sure. Sounds like a bargain.
So anyway, I'll see where I go, and I'll push it along, see what lessons I can learn out. And
I'm super excited. I'm super excited to do a podcast with clone number 2, Surrey, and clone number 3. We're doing... didn't you know that we're doing a podcast on Tuesday night? That's what I got told.
The bugger, I told him he's meant to be working Tuesday night and earning some money.
Well, he messaged me, so it's fine. I'm fine. I'm happy. I don't see the difference. So, they're all clones.
Other than that, I've been working on coming up with some like media releases and sort of fact sheets so to hand out to
media releases, fact sheets? What's that for?
That's for the Space Brains Sci-Fi Film Festival. Going to be released here, and so the event is being held. It almost sounded like I had it rehearsed there for a moment.
It did. We're not that well prepared.
May 21, 2022 at the Mandurah Performing Arts Centre.
Fishtrap Theatre.
Fishtrap. We will be having the a program of day-long program and awards and screenings and it's going to be freaking fantastic. We're receiving entries from all over the world.
We are.
We've got some strong candidates from here locally in WA. WA being Western Australia, not Washington State, just in case you're curious. And
mind you, if that makes you enter, go for it.
We've got a feature film in.
Yeah,
well, hopefully we're going to receive some more of those. We've got plenty of short films. This is turning out to be quite good.
Yes, it's exciting. I couldn't believe that we got the feature. I don't know if we talked about that in the last episode, but yeah, it's cool that we've got our first feature film, and yeah, there's heaps of Australian and international short films coming through. So yeah, and we're going to probably, I'd like to run a bit of a workshop locally, you know, for sort of, especially for like teenagers or something, so that we can get them, and we can talk about a lot of the stuff that we talk about on the podcast about, you know, what is what makes a sci-fi, and then encourage them to make a sci-fi.
Mandurah Youth Club up there, they have youth, what do you call it, grants of up to $350 for the youngsters of Mandurah to pursue their dreams, their goals, their hobbies. Which, so, you know, if you are in, you can probably look for a similar youth arrangement in your own local city or area, but you can basically go in there and you tell them what it is you want some money for and how much is what you're going to use it on. Like maybe you'll need to get some costumes or pay someone to do some sound design.
Yeah.
Then off you trot. You can You can get in. So maybe we can help inspire some youngsters to go grab a bit of that money and then go get a camera, or I don't know, pay a makeup artist to make them look like Mark Ruffalo so they can jump up and down shirtless on a bed. That's a weird thing to do.
It is.
And if you're under 18, please don't do it.
No, probably not a good.
It's dangerous. Mark Ruffalo, he's a trained professional actor of many years. He knows how to jump up and down on a bed.
He's very well trained at that, I think.
Well, that's how he got his role as the Hulk. Ruffalo smash! Ruffalo smash! Yes, okay. So, Mark Ruffalo, if you want to come on the podcast and tell us about that, how much smashing you've had to do in your time,
tell us. Please tell us.
We want to know.
Sorry, said all that, Mark. Just hit us up on Instagram.
And how are you going? Because I know you've been doing a lot of filmmaking at the moment.
Yeah, well, Harold the Plumber, we did all that. So we're in the editing, what you've just been talking about, the editing. So that's exciting. Some boring bits in editing, like cataloguing, when you are talking about, you know, you've shot, I don't know, 50 minutes of footage, raw footage, and it's going to end up being 5 minutes. So, you know, it's a long process when you're at that 50-minute stage. But it's also exciting. I feel like there's a bit of magic in that film, and there is literally magic toilet water. So, yeah, that's coming along really cool, slowly but surely. Also been involved in filming for a documentary, so not sci-fi, but yeah, it's good to be behind the camera to do that. That's for my wife. They're doing a nature documentary here locally in Mandurah. Her and Tony from Left Coast Media. So they're doing a mutual nature documentary, or like a little doco series. I don't know, a bit like you, I just get told, you're going to be filming this day, and you're going to be doing this and this and that. So, but it's been very busy doing that, and that does also involve us fixing our front garden. So I've also been working hard on the front garden. It's almost there, actually. Doesn't look like the
crackdown
front house of, as you say, crackdown heroin addicts. It was just a nature. I will say the birds liked it as a crackdown. Okay, they liked it. They liked the corn growing.
Yeah, there's some bits
the
of
random corn.
Wild corn. There's a couple of strawberry tomato plants I saw as well.
I've ripped all that out, sorry, and now it's just natives. So pretty excited. We planted a nice solid eucalyptus as well, sort of about 1 metre tall, so a little baby one, but yeah, compared to what it's going to turn into.
In 25, 30 years, it'll be big.
Yeah, it'll be about 6 metres, I think, something like that is its maximum height. So it's not like a huge one, but it'll be a nice, decent height if it takes off. And yeah, today I was also filming myself for a writing incubator thing that's happening. So I've put myself out there and I had to do a little 30-second video that became an all-day project, of course. But it's cool to be involved in that. And yeah, and also then just ticking some boxes for Space Brains Film Festival, as we just talked about, getting those processes happening and moving on to the next stage. So it's felt like this last 2 weeks, the creative projects have really been pouring. Yeah. Not enough time, as always. Or that's what it feels like for me.
No.
Never enough to sort of just do enough.
Only one lifetime is not enough.
No. And then everyone's like, you should be TikToking about, and you should be doing this and that, and you should be Instagram. And you're like, oh my goodness, I'm just keeping my head above water at the moment on this stuff. But it's also very sort of exciting.
Okay, well, let's get stuck into this film.
Let's do it.
So hang on. Okay, let's get stuck into the film?
The film.
Okay, in the film.
I'm going to give you a brief overview. Sorry.
Brief overview.
That will take about 3 hours. It'd be much faster just to go and watch the film and then come back and listen to the last bit. No, please don't leave. Please don't leave me. So this was directed, as we talked about, Michel Gondry. Now, Michel Gondry, I've just said that. Music video, experimental filmmaker. We're going to have stuff to do with, like we've been talking about, shadows, weird setting changes. You might end up having a baby with a really big head, like in one of his other music clips, and also a creepy... there's a music clip that he did. I can't remember the musician off the top of my head, so if you're out there, correct me, let me know. And it's like a fully grown man, but with a baby head on it. And it sings the song, and it's so creepy. As before this, about 1999, 2000, it was right at the sort of pinnacle when I'm sort of, that late teenage age, watching Rage late at night, and just tripping out on that kind of stuff. And also, there's another one he does where he's big on putting things on other people's bodies. It's like a man's face on a really hot female body. I don't know if you remember that music clip, but yeah. So
a music clip. I'm
talking about music clips.
You don't remember
that
dream?
No. I
don't remember that dream. That's like
but his style is definitely very experimental. Also, digital graphics mixing in with that sort of, like Surrey was talking about. We've got a bit of digital stuff happening, but it's scenes changing, and there's a great use of positioning the actors, shadows, and the camera just sort of slowly tracking away, and all of a sudden, you shift from a bookstore into someone's apartment, or when he does that street scene as well in the memory where he's like following Clementine, and he kind of keeps trying to get to it, and she keeps changing, and his car keeps changing. Remember that scene?
Yeah, it's
and the other thing you notice in that scene, every time he changes, the stores lose details and the street loses a bit of detail, but it keeps flipping. But he never seems to change. I don't even, like, I watched that, and I've seen this film a couple of times.
Well, he remembers himself just fine.
Yeah, that's a really good point, isn't it? But that's not what's being deleted, right?
Yeah.
Is him. He's not being deleted. But the store goes blank. Did you notice that was the whole thing? Throughout the whole thing, the memories were sort of like shaded away, weren't they?
Yeah, well,
like people's faces shaded away.
It started off being just the street name, and the store was like, someone or other's blah blah on this street name.
Yeah.
And he turns back, and now like the specific name of the store is gone, but the street name's still there.
Yeah.
And finally,
the
eventually,
store's still there.
The street sign had the name, but then the stores just had white signs.
Yeah.
Until finally the streets... And they're happening again also, one of his memories in the bookstore, all the covers of the books disappeared and went white, and it was just...
They're all like blank, brown.
And then they sort of started flipping out, disappearing off into the void.
Yes, so you expect a lot. Now, when he mixes with Charlie Kaufman's a bit of a... It's good that these... And I know that if you go in... The Charlie and Michael and there's another guy, they kind of like co-wrote the short story of this version, and then Charlie wrote the whole script. Charlie adaptation, another really quirky.
Oh, that's a Jim Carrey as well.
Yeah, and Nicolas Cage. I mentioned Nicolas Cage. He's in adaptation.
Oh, sorry, Nicolas Cage's adaptation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, don't worry, different one I was thinking of.
Yeah,
Jim Carrey.
But Kaufman's got weird sort of, again, style, quirky comedy. It's a weird comedy style, isn't it? Sort of thing going on. But very intelligent, very experimental, and also very world-bending. And you found that in this film as well, isn't it? It's like, again, what we said before, that we've got this major science technology, medical procedure, delete your memories, and yet it's kind of being done in a backyard. It's also
not even Total Recall style.
No. No, it's very sort of also like, it's just what we do now. We delete people's memories, no worries. And he won a Academy Award for this film for Best Screenplay.
Well, that's
so
nice.
Whatever you think about this film, the Academy liked it. whatever that means. And it stars, we've talked about Jim Carrey. He plays Joel, Kate Winslet, Clementine. Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling, Clementine. And we do have Elijah Wood, who I couldn't say his name last time, as Patrick the Creep. He's a real creep in this. And he's good as a creep, don't you reckon? It's the same in Sin City. I don't want to ruin that, but he's creepy in that movie. I don't know if that's sci-fi. I do need to watch that movie. And Mark Ruffalo plays Stan, and we also have the kind of minor characters, David Crossan, and they play, the wife and the friends, like the friends of Joel. So it's a pretty big cast. Hey, they've really been poured into this. Now, filmed in New York, budget 20 mil, and made over 74 mil at the box office. So that's not a bad return on investment. Sorry,
I'm wondering,
show me the greenbacks.
I'm wondering how much of that 74 million was just because it had Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet, Elijah Wood, Mark Ruffalo, like Kirsten Dunst.
I know. It would have pulled a few people in, I reckon.
Because they're all respectable actors who have been in A-list movies at various times.
Yeah. I didn't look it up, but it'd be interesting, was Kirsten Dunst was kind of a bit of a child actor as well before Spider-Man. So she had done some stuff, Small Soldiers and a couple other films, I know, in the 90s.
Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah, so she was a bit more of a child star, even though here she's maybe in her early 20s. I'm watching a Netflix show about her at the moment where she's a lot older, Queen of the South, or How I Became Queen. It was a great comedy drama sort of show, not sci-fi at all, but it's really cool. So it's sort of one of those dramatic retellings in the 90s of like of Amway, like of a pyramid scheme, sort of thing. That's the idea. So it's kind of it's quite funny. But very serious at other times. But yeah, she was a bit more of a child actor. But Elijah Wood, I mean, he was a child actor as well, and obviously had done Lord of the Rings around this era. So all these guys have kind of done stuff. I think it's just Jim Carrey that probably took the real major pay cut to be in this.
I think so.
He obviously deliberately chose to be in this. I'm not too sure about... And Kate Winslet was obviously... She got a bit of a nod for... She got nominated for a Academy Award for Best Acting as well for this.
She does really well in this.
She's great in this. Great. Yeah, she's really outside. And again, I think it's one of those things like we talked about Jim going, I don't want to be in comedies. I want to do something a bit different. It's the same for her. Like, she's come off, massive Titanic, and I think she was also in another couple, Elizabethan sort of...
I do remember seeing her name in things and me thinking, I'm even less interested in that than I am Titanic.
I know, but she's obviously a strong actor. But it's like you can say, Kate, we've got another role with you, and you're like, yeah, what is it? Oh, you play the damsel in distress. You play. Oh, I don't want to play. I want to play a heroin junkie. I want to, I want to be rough.
So I want to be interesting.
We've got this script that where she's really crazy and she's a drunk, and that sounds more interesting. But you're only going to get paid. Nothing, cheesels, and in their dollars. And the currency conversion of cheesels to US dollars is really quite low, Surrey, just so you know. And
damn it.
And she goes for it,
Just signed up for a big
cheesel
movie deal, the next Marvel film. They're going to pay me 2 packets of cheesels.
Oh, you got
fun
screwed.
size.
Again, I don't know if they might have shared some of the profits, but sometimes the actors get involved in that, don't they? It's like take a huge pay cut, but you get 2% of the gross.
Always take gross.
Always take gross. We've learnt this from Surrey. Always take gross.
I learned it from Will Smith.
Okay, the other thing with Internal Sunshine before we get stuck into it is, and this was a bit trending when this film came out in 2003, 2004, is that we get a narrative order that is pretty crazy. So this film, and again, we've warned everyone, I think, this film, we start in the future, although we don't know it's the future.
Or do we start in the present, and then we flash back?
And then we flash back, but then when we get to kind of the climax, we're then back.
We catch up with... We basically catch up to the present.
But there is... And then also the film is kind of... The memories... His memories are almost like reverse chronological order. So we start at the end of the relationship and we work our way backwards.
Yes.
So that's why there's such a such a jump, and we'll talk about this in a moment, but there's such a jump from the start of the film, and I was watching it, because this is about my fourth time watching this film over the last, 20 years since it's come out, roughly, that, and I watched it about 5 years ago, but it's like, I was watching it on I have a DVD of this film, so I sort of like was watching the counter, and looking at, the 12-minute mark, no, it kept going, and but really, it was something like about the 14th minute mark is then the end of the present. The future, whatever you want to call it. And then we get the opening credit. The opening credits actually come in at about 14 minutes, right?
My wife and I noticed that and went, we haven't seen the credits yet?
After the credits, they're broken up, right? And then and that's when he's finding out about so that's the inciting incident, so to speak. But then when you look at the arc of the whole film, really that's not the inciting incident in a way, because the time frame is more... you need to flip that whole story on its bum, really, don't you? And it's like he's met her at the party, which happens at the end of the film. He's met her at the party, and they've connected, and they've gone to the house, and blah, blah, blah. But then also, Surrey, just to boggle your mind, is when they do go to the house at the end of the film, that crumbles, that, of course, is not what happened.
The crumbling of the house?
No, that's his memory crumbling. And also because she starts... conversing with him at about the midpoint of the film in the dreams, which of course did not happen, right?
She essentially breaks would that be the fifth wall?
Something.
Where one of the characters is speaking to another character in a meta sense about the story that's happening. Yeah. So they've broken the fourth wall with another character. Because he's watching his memories play out, and then suddenly one of his memories is talking directly to him. As an observer of the memories, which is...
And then starts, like, acting in the memories. Reacting, like acting to the memory. Oh, let's do this now, because that would hide me, So, yeah. And then, in fact, she does, so we'll come back to that. So, just wanted to make that there's a reverse chronological order. I probably haven't thought about it as much, but, Christopher Nolan's Memento with the guy with the 5-minute memory... this film is actually kind of a bit similar. That's a very different, it's a bit darker, a bit bleaker. But when I looked at it this time, I could kind of see, they are a bit similar. And they both came out about the same time. I think Memento's 2002, this is 2003, 2004. But there is actually a bit of a similarity, whereas I didn't notice that. I think the point, that film's a bit different, but the point of Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind and why it's told like this is... we are supposed to sort of walk away with a bit of vagueness, a bit of memory loss, what you've been joking about. Like, what the hell was this film about?
Yeah. I think you're not meant to quite know what their relationship really was like. Because he's going through these memories, and we see some of his bad memories. Yeah. But we see a lot of, his interesting memories. Yeah, we do. And or good or important memories. But because, as you said, partway through, Clementine is talking to him and reacting and trying to say, let's go somewhere to a different memory that I don't exist in, you start to lose the reality of the memory. Like, you do. It becomes unreliable as to how much of their conversation when they're in their house at the end of his memory loss, which is the beginning of their relationship. How much of that is real? How much is him coming to terms with the way their relationship went later on in the relationship?
And it was also him identifying, like, the house is him identifying that when that happened, he didn't really stay, he didn't really invest the time, he didn't really, like, run with the adventure of meeting this new girl who's interested in. He retreated into his same old self, and so he, like, ran away from the experience, which that's why that makes that the climax, because he's kind of saying, oh, I ran away from this, like, that could have been a cool adventure that night. Hey, meeting this beautiful girl on the beach, and we're kind of clicking, and she's inviting you to stay,
breaking into a house and steal their stuff, break things.
But they're having a romantic moment.
I'd be with old Joel here and say, and she says, oh, why don't you say? I said, well, because I'm not a criminal, and I know that if I owned this house and I came home and someone had eaten my food and broken things and smacked, like, I'd be really freaking pissed off.
Yeah.
I'd be really annoyed.
I don't think that was Joel's rationale, but
No.
is what you're just saying.
And if you're the sort of person who does just spontaneously break into people's houses and do this, you're inevitably going to rob a petrol station, or you're going to start taking heroin, or you're going to stab me while I sleep, for crying out loud. Who knows what you're going to do.
You don't want to live on the wild side like that, sorry?
No, this whole opposites attract thing is not correct.
But I suppose that's the thing. Was that Joel's opposite, or was it Joel's kind of... Yeah, I don't know if that was Joel, because Joel was pretty weird too, wasn't he?
Joel was very straight, and I did like that. So let's go and go through this. So we start... Let me think about how we start this. We start... He wakes up. He wakes up in the morning. He's on a fold-out bed.
Yeah.
I didn't really question that. I was like, that's a bit weird, but he looks a bit worse for wear. So you're thinking, okay, he's on a fold-out bed. That's kind of, if nothing else, it's representative of the fact that he's not in a permanent, good, stable spot.
Yeah.
And he gets up, and there's a voiceover in his head saying it's Valentine's Day, and it was just invented by greeting card companies to make us feel terrible. And he's at the train station, and he just takes he hears the Montauk train is about to leave, and so he looks around and he suddenly runs and sprints across and gets on the other station and squeezes in, and he says he doesn't even know why he's done it. And he calls in sick to work.
He does.
And he gets to Montauk, which at that time of year looked bleak.
Yeah.
Like, it did not look like a nice place to be.
No, there's snowing and the beach is cold. And...
It's cold, and he's in his workwear, and he's just kind of stumbling along.
Yeah, it seems very inappropriate. And he kind of opens up his journal, and he's like, I don't remember ripping pages out, but I guess it's been a couple of years since I've used my journal.
Yeah, it's been 2 years since Naomi came here last with her.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because he did, but he didn't leave with her.
No. No, but he didn't go to that party with Naomi either.
No, because she stayed behind. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so he didn't even go there. So, anyway.
Just screwed up my memories then.
But it's letting us know that he's maybe been alone for a couple of years and sad and depressed, and he's not a very exciting protagonist.
No, he's not.
He's down and out. And anyway, he's then... he does notice a woman on the beach, and he sort of says, if I could talk to a woman or look at a woman in the face or something, like...
Yeah, here I am. I can't even look at a woman in the face. And then later on, as he's leaving there, he's saying, why is it that I just seem to want to fall in love with the first woman I always see? Anyone who shows me treats me like I'm any sort of a human.
Yes, there's a good line there. That anyone that sort of shows me the littlest amount of attention, and I'm going to fall in love with them. Good bit of foreshadowing.
Well, yes, it's good.
They have a nice little moment at the coffee shop as well. She's pouring a bit of gin in her coffee. He's doing his drawings.
Which, again, would have warned me away from her. I'd be like, secret alcoholic? No, thanks.
It's not fun and exciting for you, sorry.
Well, if she had ordered a pint of beer at her table, that would be different. I'd be like, okay. But she knew what she was doing was wrong.
Yeah. Maybe she's just a cheapskate,
But she knew what she was doing was wrong, and that's important to me.
And then on the train ride home, she starts talking to him. They have a bit of an awkward sort of conversation.
And I was shocked watching it at this point here. I was personally going, geez, she's really forward.
Yeah.
And he seems to be okay with that. Like it's frightening behaviour. It all makes sense, of course, later on, the fact that they've already been together for a year, 2 years, or something along those lines. They've had a couple of years together already. So this familiarity is actually quite okay.
Yeah.
But of course, at this point in the film, I didn't know that. Like, I'm just going, this is a little bit spooky. Like, it's a bit stalkery, a bit kind of intense too early.
It's a funny thing, this opening scene, like with her kind of really approaching him and being the really forward, and you notice like she's sort of sitting on the train. There's no one else really on the train, and she's sitting away from him. She starts talking, and then like after talking for maybe a minute, she's then sitting on the next to him. Sorry, like in the row in front, and then she talks a bit more, and they kind of, and the whole time he's not saying much, and his body language is also very much like stay back. And then she keeps moving closer and closer and closer to him. And what's very weird about that is that you watch all these other films and it's always men doing that to women.
Yes.
And it seems like that's normal. And yet when a woman does it to a man, it's seeming kind of a bit creepy. There's definitely like a bit of a play-off there going on, I feel.
Yeah.
Like, she's coming across, like, you've just said it. You've said you're like, is it like, this woman's coming on to me, you know? And it's so unexpected, right? Like, she is dangerous and she's drinking underneath and she's doing this and also I think because he's coming across so much like the innocent, you know, like he's like a little innocent little lamb. Like he's kind of curled up in the corner, leave me alone. His vibe, you know.
I'm trying to do my art.
My journaling. I'm journaling here, people. I'm journaling. Stay away. Attractive young
so
woman.
So creative.
Like they talk about hair colors, and he's like, "Oh, that's not a job," and she's like, "It's a job." So I kind of found it's kind of a little bit like a car crash. Like I've found it a bit alluring, this scene, this sequencing. And then he even tells her, like, I've got to get back to my journaling.
Yeah,
you know? He really rejects her, you know, like, and she walks away. But then he does the weird thing of like picking her up in his car.
Yeah, he sees her walking along and he stops and says, I could give you a ride. And let's face it, he did enjoy the attention.
He did enjoy the attention. And as he said earlier, he fell in love with someone that gives him a little bit of attention.
Yes.
So we sort of have this, like, they go back to her place. She offers him a drink. They do actually laugh and they connect. And then he goes, I'm going to go. And she wants him to stay. And he goes. And then
she gives him her number.
Her number, like, writes it on his hand. Again, crazy style. And then he goes home and then he rings her straight away. And she's like, oh, what took you so long? So it's like they've connected. They've fallen in love. That's the appearance. And this is where we do get the opening credits, basically.
Yes.
So we've almost had this, as I said, it was about 14 minutes, so not quite 12 minutes, but about 14 minutes of these two falling in love, you know, and it is what it is. Like, it seems like it's a love story. And we have this opening and we come back to Joel being all negative and gloomy again. And you think, well, that's perfectly normal. But this time he's saying to his friends that what's happened to Clementine? You know, where's she gone?
Yeah, I haven't seen her.
I haven't seen her. What's going on? And they're going, well, it's Clementine. It's who she is. And they're kind of excusing that behaviour. And it gets to a point that then his friend, David, played by David Cross, is like, look, I'm not supposed to give you this, but here's this little card. And it says, Dear Mr. and Mrs. Cross. That's not their names, but Clementine has had her memory erased. Please don't raise this or question her about her memories or something like that.
And Rob's wife is quite grumpy at him for this.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting contrast here, 'cause these two, this married couple, they seem to be constantly
fighting and not really
struggling with each other. Like, but for some reason they stay together, which is weird. Like, you know, she dumps the laundry on him, and he's like, ugh.
And even he says, let's smoke a joint. She's like, not tonight or not too
just
early.
Give it a break. Give it a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a strange little side relationship you see where there's... It's not like there's this couple who have it all figured out.
Yeah. And I guess when you think about it, no one does in this film, right? Like, because Kirsten Dunst is trying to crack on to the boss...
Who's married.
Who's actually married, and then they've deleted her memory and she's cracking on it. And then at the same time, she's... also having sex or partying with Stan. And then also Patrick is like stealing her underwear and like he's like trying to manipulate someone else into a relationship. So maybe this is the thing. Everyone's relationships is kind of screwed up, right?
Makes me feel fantastic.
It does. It suddenly makes you realise that you've got a good wife. What the hell are you doing a podcast at 10 p.m. on a Thursday night for?
Oh my God, is that the time?
Probably. So anyway, he realizes that he goes and learns that there's this clinic in the city and that Clementine has deleted all the memories that they had together.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them.
And he has trouble believing that, of course.
He does. And what you mentioned before, he like kind of it's really hard to put exact words on it, but it's not a sophisticated clinic. It's called Lacuna. the doctor and the office, like, and even what you said, like, he walks by and that older woman is having her memories erased, and Stan's just kind of standing there, and like, but he can see it. Like, there's no medical, like, when do you go to the doctor and the doors are just wide open to other patients?
Yeah, no,
it's not really the thing, right? But here it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and the people in the waiting room holding their belongings.
It's like all obvious. Like, I've come here to delete my memories of Surrey. Like, here's all my space brain stuff.
Yes.
It's like really obvious of like what you're getting rid of. There's no privacy. So yeah, it's a really sort of broken down. He's heartbroken, and he decides to do the same procedure. So this is where we as an audience get to kind of learn. Okay, well, what is the procedure? How? And they say you come in, you do some tapes, and you also. You're going to bring all your mementos, and they do that weird scanning thing, don't they? That pre-scan.
Yeah, you got to look at all of these bits, and they scan the brain, and they're sort of creating a map of where in the mind this person's memories are. And they've got a target.
This is really clever because whilst they're doing that, Joel walks in on the memory.
Yes.
So it's him then realizing that they've already started the memory deletion. A bit Total Recall. Like, there's a bit of a crossover there, isn't there?
Yeah. Because,
hang on.
I mean, before all of this, we did see Joel go into his apartment, and he took a pill.
Yep.
And then he's like, gets drugged, and he finally turns the lights off, and then Stan and Patrick go, okay, it's showtime, and they go on in. So we sort of know something is happening, but we don't, again, we're getting messed with our timelines here because... Yeah. That sort of happens, but then we don't see the results of that.
No.
We see him going in and talking to the doctor about getting his memory erased.
Yeah. So So we did jump
ahead.
And
it's kind of... And I think we're going to have trouble keeping this movie straight, because it's a bit like this.
Yeah, because the memories cross over in the reality of the story.
It was nice then that, of course, that memory scene started to really blur.
Yeah.
And different backdrops were appearing.
Yeah.
So they're putting up... little figures, like little potato head figures on his thing he's meant to look at, and then like the background is no longer the doctor's office that he's in, it's in something else, and then Joel is himself observing this walking around. I don't know, it gets very confusing.
It is, but it was cool. It was a cool effect, and you're exactly right. As they're putting those objects up, those memories are kind of like quick flashes, aren't they? The Clementine with the skeleton, and he's kind of doodling or drawing, and then it's gone, and then it's like there's a Chinese restaurant, and then that's kind of, and so it's like foreshadowing the memories will be longer later, but they're just kind of quick flashes. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, that was really cool. And
then we see in the Joel's apartment where Stan and Patrick are doing the thing. They're setting Joel up. It's clearly this is what's happening and why we were seeing strange things. And the camera work here is different. The quality of the movements of the camera are more traditional. And it's these two talking. Patrick talks about the fact that he's sort of got his new girlfriend, and he's got his new girlfriend, and finally he sort of says, well, it's actually Clementine.
The girl we did.
Because I saw her, and Stan's saying, but you only watched her sleeping, like... He said, I know, but she was so beautiful and perfect and interesting, and I saw some of her underwear. So, what? Nothing weird. It wasn't. It was clean underwear. Like
that makes it okay, Patrick. That makes it okay. Stan, Elijah Wood. And of course,
Stan is just kind of taken a bit aback by this. He's going, you can't do that. That is really wrong.
Yeah.
But I guess
it's okay to delete this guy's memories. But
I guess he's at the point there where he ends up sort of going, well, you've done it. You can't be doing that though.
Yeah.
And then finally, Patrick, he's calling up
Clementine.
Yeah, God knows why I don't remember that name.
But we don't know it's Clementine completely, do we?
No,
at that point in time, it's sort of a bit of a secret. Because I think that's when, before it goes any further, that's when you have that memory of Joel going to the bookshop and her not having the memory.
Yes,
that's when that happens. So when we see that, we don't see Patrick. We see her like she kisses a guy. She ignores him.
She says the name Patrick.
Yeah, but you don't see him.
You don't see him.
Don't exactly know who it is. It's a real...
Oh, no, I sort of did.
Yeah, well, you kind of get in the
You can recognise Elijah, like he's got a particular look.
He does. But you don't actually see him face on.
No.
And even later, the whole memory replays and Patrick's got no face.
Yeah, he turns him around to look at him in the face.
Yeah, and it's the same, just
the back of his head.
Flips him, yeah. And Mary also rocks up, and this is where it starts to turn into a party with Ruffalo. They drink, they smoke weed, they dance.
Patrick leaves because...
Yeah, this is where Patrick...
Mary doesn't like Patrick.
No, she doesn't like him, and, Stan's pretty happy for him to leave, I think, so they just got one-on-ones. They also reveal, there's no waking up, Joel. It's impossible.
Yeah, as we foreshadowed, actually, as we blatantly said, the two of them are jumping on they walk. In fact, they seem to make a point of walking across the bed to get to the other side.
And he's just out of it.
Rather than walking carefully around or treating him with any respect at all, they're just walking back and forward over him.
Again, adding to that, this is a bit of a backyard operation thing, right? Anyone could do this sort of almost. This memory, take away someone's memory, it doesn't really matter. Just stick him in a slow cooker and just walk away from it kind of thing.
Put a colander on his head.
Yeah, he's all good. So Joel starts to re-experience these memories of Clementine as they're erased. And it's interesting because these memories are kind of, that after that memory of her not remembering him at the bookshop, it's really funny that he goes into it gets a bit detailed, and it seems, I really get the impression, the memories that he's experiencing, the first one, if you remember, she comes in late at night, he's all antsy, she's drunk, and they basically just have an argument, and she's saying,
three in the morning,
and she's like, oh, you're so boring, and what you're probably thinking if I fucked another guy, and he's like, that's not, and they have this fight. And
I'm not thinking that. I know you did.
Yeah. And she throws the keys, and you get a distortion in the memory. There's two doors. She walks out one door, and it's the same door. It starts to happen. And he flees after her as well in the car to apologise, and that's where you get that street scene.
Yeah, because he clearly never caught up with her.
No, he never, and she, the car keeps changing, all this sort of stuff. And it's where you learn that she had damaged the car as well.
She's the one who hit the fire hydrant.
Fire hydrant, yeah. Then it's sort of also we see more memories where... and they're disappearing, but they all seem... There's just a theme, because there's a bunch in a row, but they all seem that they're basically, the relationship was not happy. They're arguing over...
a restaurant.
Yeah, they argue over the food. They argue over, he doesn't want a baby in the markets.
And he makes a comment, says, are you sure you'd be able to handle that?
Yeah.
Which I thought was a reasonable question, but not well placed.
No, not well placed. But again, that's what happens in relationships, because we're not scripted. We're just saying things, unfortunately. Basically she partied and drank too much, and he was very withdrawn.
He was getting less and less involved in her quirkiness.
Yes. As he starts to reach, however, earlier, it's almost like, again, the relationship is going backwards. The memories do start to get a bit happier. And they start to have happy moments, And again, so it's, again, like all relationships, you kind of have that honeymoon period, and then maybe they do start to dwindle off a bit. But because we're going in reverse, we've had the nasty stuff, so they do start to have some happier memories. And he does have a realization suddenly that he doesn't want this to go. And I think that's they're in, is it not Times Square, the big famous, is it Central... in New York, the big railway station or whatever, they're on the floor.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and he's kind of like, quick, run, we've got to run, and everyone disappears around him, and then they do disappear, and she disappears.
Yeah.
So there's still, memories are deleting. So, yeah, back then into the room, and Surrey's right, a lot of it, we start to have this effect, which was really cool with the spotlighting. So we start to have also spotlighting on the memory.
I really like that.
The edges are all dark and things are disappearing. And you also pointed as well, the camera work being much more handy cam, shakiness, rooms as well. So we had the spotlight, and then rooms going pitch black.
And I've really got that...
even in Central Station, let me just say it because I just mentioned that, like, when he does say, let's run, you see people disappearing and the spotlight goes on them, and even Central Station is dark all around them.
And I really like that spotlight effect. It threw a really hard shadows and everything.
Yeah.
And it gives you that feeling of like dreams where there's this one central bit which is really clear, but if someone says, oh, and what colour was the sky at the time, you go, I don't even know if there was a sky.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't important at all in
that's
this.
Right.
And that's this where he's rushing about the place with this spotlight on him, and he passes by himself crossing the street carrying the garbage bags.
Yes,
but,
that's right. Yeah.
But that you don't see him. You just, if you're not paying close attention, you don't notice that's it. It's just running across this street and just about he gets hit by a car or something or other, and then suddenly the memory vanishes and he changes to a different set of memories.
Yeah. So there's some cool kind of changing of the sets and the changing of the lighting happening there. We cut back, and this is where Stan and Mary are having such a good time that they just literally start having sex, I think, on top of him, don't they, really?
Yeah, well, basically, yeah.
I mean, we don't see that, but we see them sort of like post-coital, smoking, drinking, whatever, and, you know, talking about doing the job of deleting the memory. And, but I think they're on that sofa bed that he was sleeping on. So they kind of, you know, had sex on the edge of the bed or whatever. And so it's interesting. And when we cut back then inside Joel's brain, this is Clementine is actually, what you said before, it's like, is it breaking one of the fourth walls or whatever that suddenly he's saying to her, oh, you're going to be deleted. And she suggests she's the one, which is interesting, isn't it? But I guess it's his brain, you know, so it's his version. But she says, well, why don't you hide me in like other memories that don't involve me? And so he sort of has this moment of like, you know, she says, why don't you wake up and tell them? And he tries to open his eyes.
Yeah, what am I supposed to do? Just lie down here and hold my eyes open?
And he does it. And he does it for a second, but it doesn't. But what it does do then back where Stan is that it causes some sort of glitch where the memory, the hairdressing machine, the colander fritzes a little, doesn't it? And loses his memory or loses where he is.
Yeah, it goes off the map, as it were.
Yeah. So that causes Stan to then have to call the boss, the doctor, to come and help, which he does. You know, then he starts coming down. Back in Howard, who kind of arrives and restarts it. So then Joel, him and Clementine talking about, well, where can you hide me? And she says, well, there's this great memory of my crotch. You liked my crotch. And
then we had sex on the couch.
Yeah, we had sex on the couch. So they're already there, and then that room starts disappearing. I think maybe we do cut back to Howard, and he's like, oh, I've found them again.
Yes.
So
let's go do it somewhere else.
Yeah, let's have sex somewhere else. And then he like flashes, and it's him as a kid under the table, and Clementine is like the neighbour. And they sort of joke about the situation. But then the funny thing is, it's like Joel is a kid, right?
Yeah,
like he's a
4-year-old, and he's saying, and this is where he gets, and this is where you get that bit of empathy with him, where you go, oh, this is why. First of all, this is why he likes Clementine, and also why he has problems is because he's not getting attention. He's basically got some problem, mummy issues.
Yep.
His mum doesn't pay enough attention to him, like, and he's hides under the counter, and you know,
he likes being under the counter.
He never gets looked at. You know, why is nobody looking at me? Why does no one see me?
Yeah.
And that's what I guess I could immediately tell. Well, Clementine did see him. Like he was, as we learn later on, he was sitting up on the steps by himself eating his barbecue while everyone else was partying down the beach.
Yeah.
And she came up and just spoke to him and and took his food and ignored his apparent desire to be left alone.
Yeah.
And saw him.
And it's what she does on the train as well, right? Yes. Like she confronts him,
and
basically.
So that starts to make sense then that, okay, so that's sort of what he needs. That's his damage that he's trying to repair with this relationship. Yeah. Which, as we know, that's not how things work out. And they do break up later on. But the scene also then moves from there into the sink, where he's getting a bath in the sink. And he
Yeah.
says, like, he's happy there because he's being, I guess he's getting full attention of his mum at that point.
And they're singing "Oh My Clementine,"
Yeah.
which is interesting because when you cut back to the start of the film, she actually makes that joke. Don't make any jokes about my name. And he's like, sorry, I don't know any jokes. And she goes, oh my darling, oh my darling. In this actual memory, the mum is singing, oh my darling, oh my
Yes.
darling. Which tells you something, doesn't it? It gives you a clue about that the start was not the start.
Yeah. No. I mean, I got that from the dented, from the hair colour. And then when she says she crashed the car, it's like, oh no, okay.
Yeah, it starts to put the pieces of the puzzle.
But yeah, so it's quite nice this sort of flashback to his childhood, and it was incorporated there. So we do see that there's reasons why he demands to have attention paid to him.
Yeah.
But then, and that's the funny thing, is the reason they actually broke up, his first memory, is because she didn't seem to be paying attention to him anymore. And, well, so he was losing what he was gaining from that relationship.
Yeah.
But it seems that Clementine also has lost what she was gaining, which was someone to put up with her, I think, and tell her she's pretty.
Yes.
Didn't she say something like she'd yell at the dolly, or was that Kirsten Dunst's character? It was Mary, wasn't it? Mary was saying she had this dolly and she would shout at it saying, you're pretty, be pretty, just be pretty? Or is that... No, see, my memory's broken.
No, that is...
that is Clementine. That is Clementine, yeah. So she had a very insecure childhood. And so clearly she probably was getting a stability out of old Joel, who was not telling her off and not putting her down and not making fun of her.
He wants attention and she just wants to be kind of...
treated nicely, normally,
which
nice.
To her is weird.
Yes.
But he doesn't, but then he wants her to act up.
Yeah.
Because her acting up is kind of more like it's standing closer to the sun. That's what he wants. He wants the glare of the sun. She doesn't want to be the sun anymore because she's always pretended to be the sun.
Not a healthy relationship. No. It's not going to last.
But they'll keep coming back to this circle, so it's fine. And in this, and they sort of kind of get to a happy moment with then the other kid and the killing the hide in humiliation, remember?
Yeah.
And he's like wanking, and then
that was so funny.
Yeah, and she's like Joel, and then the mum comes in and she's laughing.
We'll talk about this tomorrow. Yeah. And Joel's like,
and then there's also him killing a pigeon or something, and she's the little girl. They kind of succeed, but then they don't. They still disappear out of those memories. So then it's the last memory he has of her, which is the day on the beach, and we learn about that. We see that what you were just describing. So the fact that he was Dinah never came to the beach. He didn't really want to party on the beach, so he deliberately hung back, and then she still came and reached out. And she eats the chicken. She takes a piece of chicken off his plate. And he's like, it was so intimate that you just like grabbed a piece of chicken off my plate. So it kind of hooked him, didn't it? That was the hook for him. And then as we said before as well, then they go to this house and she breaks into it. And he's, again, it's not what happened, it's the memory. And the memory's starting to be deleted or whatever. And so it's very confusing. There's a sequence here that becomes extremely confusing. But he admits that he should have stayed. He doesn't have anything else to hold on to now.
Yeah.
Because he didn't stay very long in the house. He fled the house when it actually happened.
Yeah.
Which is, again, if you've never seen the film, it can be a bit confusing in the timeline because you can be like, well, then did they ever have a relationship? Like, it's hard to think of, you know what I mean? Because it's like, well, if you didn't stay in the house, how did they progress their relationship after that?
Yeah, I found that funny because it sounded like that sounds like, the point where they broke up. Well, this is my biggest mistake was the fact that I left you. But that was
only when they met.
That was when they first met. So yeah, okay.
So how did their relationship go? We don't really know, do we?
No.
We've never really shown their next step.
She must have
reached out to him or whatever.
Jumped on him. Like, because
she
works in a city near where he is, and he goes in there from time to time. So Must have come across it. But anyway, there we go.
But there's a great sequence as well, again, which is very trippy of the house crumbling, there's water from the ocean, and then he's in the car with sand up to his neck.
Yeah.
Beach sand. And then he's in his bed and there's beach sand. It's almost like the beach, actually, in his apartment. There's a little picket fence that's been kind of flooded with sand. And there's also her kind of flashing. There's the kid memory again that kind of flashes. There's that icicle thing that they've laid on. Like, there's this whole bunch of weird memories, right? Like, really, really weird. Something we probably didn't mention, there is a plot point here where Patrick has gone to her and he's given her the little thing that Joel had bought her, and she's a bit confused.
Like, this is the most beautiful thing. How did you even know this is what I'd really love?
Yeah, and then she takes him also to the ice where her and Joel were laid out previously, but she doesn't like it there with him.
No, it totally creeps her out.
Yeah, he creeps her out. And he's...
Well, one of the nice things about that little locket that Patrick gives to her, which was that was the present Joel had bought to take to her to apologise.
Yeah.
Which, when she does open it, she goes, "Wow, this is exactly my thing. This is really thoughtful."
Yeah.
And you go, "Well, yeah." So it seems that Joel does actually know you quite well.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is good, because I struggle with presents.
Yeah, I met you that time when you were trying to find something and you were talking about
skateboard
tape.
grip tape. I found a company that does custom grip
Did
tape.
that go down well?
Yeah, it's good.
Grip
So
tape? Okay. That was a good present?
White background with her...
No, but was it a good present?
It was good.
Okay, that's the main thing.
Good. It's got her personal logo on it.
Well, then you're good at presents in Surrey. What's the problem?
Yeah, wow. But every year I've got to come up with a present.
There's another birthday?
There's another one coming up soon.
Oh, no.
Right,
start thinking about some skateboard accessories.
I ain't got nothing. Yeah. We'll see.
The problem is not so much getting the present for you, it's just going, oh, God, it's your birthday. When was that? Yesterday. Oh, shit.
Happy birthday.
Tomorrow, and it's 12 o'clock at night. What does the petrol station sell at this time of night?
Well, she would accept chocolate.
Okay, well, that's an easy present then.
That's fine. So Mary and Stan and Howard are in the room, and Stan basically excuses himself and goes, "Well, the
boss is here. I don't really know.
Yeah,
I don't really do anything.
I'm kind of feeling a bit dumb right now."
Yeah.
And so he leaves, and Mary stays. I was expecting her to excuse herself and sneak out with Stan, but she stays, and she's got like this quotes of a quote book that she quotes. And one of them is by Pope Alexander. Oh, sorry, Alexander Pope. And it's really good that was in the script, because it made me remember who did this quote, so I could look it up later.
Yeah.
And this is where the name of the film comes from.
Yeah.
Which is I can't recite it now. I could turn around and read the bit of paper with it on there, but it is. It says basically, if you've got a nice clean slate of a mind, you're going to be always happy, and it's easy.
Yeah.
And Howard goes, "Oh no, that's really good. It's quite a nice quote," but he already knows it, which is unusual, because it's not. Who knows Alexander Pope? Like, if anyone listening to this show has ever heard of Alexander Pope, let alone can remember any of his quotes, he was a poet of some repute, apparently, quite some many years ago.
So Mary, as she's doing this, there's a little bit of flirting going on, and then it seems like there's a little bit more flirting, doesn't there? And she kind of
it moves
pashes
very quickly.
Him really, she pashes him really good. Again, a second woman in this story that is aggressive, right? Sexually, or whatever.
Yeah, quick. She's just
she's taking the lead, I suppose. I shouldn't say aggressive more. It's just she's taking
an inappropriate kiss.
Yeah, which is normally men. And Howard's wife has actually just kind of rocked up. Happens to rock
happens
up.
To be standing out in the street and can
see through the window that they're passion. And she's furious, and sort of Ruffalo gives the old signal, honk. And of course they run out, and the wife's had enough, and she says, "Well, this is all sort of, it's over. And he's like, "No, it doesn't mean anything." And
it's a one-time thing.
It's a one-time. Well, it happened once before with Mary.
Yeah, I always find that that's got to be the weakest thing. It's a one-time thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's not really that. Like, it's not so much that it has happened, even just one time. It's the fact that it's happened at all, which means even if it never happened, there's still the rift, there's still the break, there's still a distance, which is formed.
Well, because the question is, why did it happen to begin with, right? Like, that's always the thing. Like, if you're married or in some sort of relationship with someone, and then they go off and kiss someone else, or more than that. That's actually the outcome of the fact that there's something wrong to begin with. Like it's too late.
That's what I mean. And the thing, my thoughts at this point were going toward: has he previously wiped his wife's memory?
Because wouldn't that be a good little trick for a doctor?
That would be interesting. And
why hasn't he? I mean, honestly, he's made the mistake here, hasn't he?
Because it seems to be it has to be a consensual thing. Because you've got to have your mind mapped and all the rest of it.
Sorry, consent.
And and we find out that Mary had previously had her mind wiped, and she's like, "Oh, what? That doesn't seem cool." And
so it
plays
comes out
the tape then or later. Anyway, later. So Mary goes off.
Yeah. So the reveal there is that she tried to pash him, and all that happened previously, and that in fact she had asked to have her memory wiped. But yet, as I said earlier tonight, it seemed like her urges have come back around. So maybe you can't really wipe love away or lust away.
There's something you can't get rid of.
You might get rid of the memory, but it's still there. The feelings are still there.
Again, the reason that it happened is still there.
It's still there, yeah.
Okay, so here is Alexander Pope, not Pope Alexander.
Pope Alexander.
How happy is the blameless Vestal's lot, the world forgetting, by the world forgot, eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. Each prayer accepted and each wish resigned.
Very deep.
That's all I got. Is just a quote.
Yeah,
it's a book.
Beautiful.
Book of quotes I got.
Beautiful.
Makes me seem smart.
It does. That's beautiful.
Yes.
It's always interesting in a film when they sort of quote something like that, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting. No, I mean it's basically saying, how nice is it? Vestals being the virgins, as someone who's never had a relationship. In the context of the poem it comes from, or the play it comes from, Eloisa, who's the character, is saying this because she's got an unrequited crush on this other dude. And so she's all messed up. And she's going, how nice it must be for these virgins, like the nuns in a nunnery type of thing, where they've got this spotless mind. They don't have the impurities, or they're not sullied or tarnished by lusts and love. They can make prayers. All their prayers are sort of nice and accepted, and all of their wishes can be given over to God, and it's fine.
Yeah, well, I suppose, isn't that interesting? Because then it's like, again, what we're just saying, that with Kirsten Dunst's character, that and then Joel and Clementine, that you can't get rid of that.
Maybe a spotless mind is not really available.
Yeah, like is a spotless mind actually possible?
Because the poor old nun sitting in the nunnery is looking out there going, "Oh my God, I want to root. I want to root so bad." But
I think you need to do that with a bit of a voice and a bit, put on a wig and just do it a little bit more.
I want to root. I want to root so bad. Apparently, I've become Scottish.
All nuns are Scottish, apparently. I did once hear this lengthy interview with a nun here in Australia, which was a specific order where most of the women that are in this nunnery, and this is modern day nunnery, I think it was out of Victoria.
They all must have at least one root before they join.
But most of these it was a nunnery that then they commit themselves and they do like silence, like forever. And they all live together in this house and they're all committed, and all this was having this head nun that they interviewed. She was allowed to talk, of course, so she's their head honcho. But yeah, most of the women she was talking about have come to them, and they don't, once they come and they commit, they don't talk about their past. And she's like, someone might have come from being a prostitute. Like, they don't know. They never know. Because they don't talk to it. Once they kind of go past their initiation point, then that's it. They're accepted and that's it. They hand themselves over to God or Christ or whatever, and then that's it. Like, there's no going back. So they might have had, in your words, a root.
Might have had a jolly root.
Or roots, and then gone, you know what? Let's give this Jesus fellow a crack for a few years.
Yeah, well, I can see some. If I could just sort of sit and do some gardening and
Read.
do a bit of writing and reading, and
occasionally go to a school or something and help out little kids.
You know what, though? It would be really hard to run a podcast.
It'd be impossible.
With that vow of silence thing going on there.
But I'm sure there's other nunneries where where it's not silent. You could do a podcast. You know?
They probably positively require you to talk.
Yeah. So let's get back to Joel, but we're going off on tangents here. Joel wakes up and his memories of Clementine are totally erased, and he wakes up at the start of the film again. Yeah,
and we do get a brief synopsis of the start, a run through. We see him running for the other train and jumping on.
Yeah,
we see him on the beach, and then we finally get to the point where he's dropping her off at her place, and she said, "No, I'm so tired. I want to sleep at your house."
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing. Is like, well, we're here at your house. We're like, no, I want to sleep at your house, and I'll go get my toothbrush. And that's where at the start of the film I was thinking, yeah, this is moving way too fast. this would be putting the hairs up on the back of my neck, going, I'm going to get murdered.
Keep
sometime.
your own bloody toothbrush.
I'm going to be murdered pretty soon. But she does. She goes up, gets a toothbrush, and and she comes in with a mail.
And Patrick also knocks on the window.
Patrick knocks and says, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
What? What do you mean?
I'm just waiting for my girlfriend.
Yeah, why are you here? Huh? I don't know. And
Patrick's pissed off.
Wanders
he knows
off.
It's all done and dusted for him.
Yeah, so she jumps in the car and she's got the letter from Mary. And she opens up and there's a tape. And like she reads it like, "Had your memory erased?" And they're both looking at each other going, "That's really freaking weird." So she pops the tape in and she's talking and
it's Clementine
asked,
on the tape.
why... Yeah, Clementine talking. Why do you want your memory erased? And she said, "It seems that like you started out okay, but then I found I was just always pissy. I was just always irritated, and I just was not happy with myself.
Yeah.
So just want to get rid of it." And naturally, this hurts Joel. I guess.
Yeah. It's a nice beat in a car where you got two people possibly just falling in love, and then you got this.
Revelation that they've had a bad relationship.
Yeah, but she's just detailing what she doesn't like about him, and it's like, ooh, awkward. It's there's not really much they can do about that.
He kicks her out,
Yeah,
or they have a bit of an argument about it, and she gets out, whichever way you want to look at it. And he goes home and he finds the same mail, which he picks up and pops in. Is listening and.
Yeah. Clementine
comes in while he's listening, and you can hear him saying that what he dislikes about her, and it's kind of like, and this would be a very surreal thing considering you've got no memory of having a relationship, but you're basically hearing like the couples counselling sessions of each other, type of thing.
Well, you're hearing these terrible things about yourself from someone that you might feel for. I can't imagine that'd be a very nice thing.
It would be a lot to deal with and process. So, understandably, of course, they separate just there and wander off. And
this relationship's done.
It's just kind of like, and I think even the strongest of minds would have to sort of say, "I'm going to need a couple of days to process this because this is all too weird." But old Joel, he perks up and he follows her out and tracks her down, and they have this final conversation.
They do.
Where essentially it boils down to, well, you heard what it's like, and he says, "Yeah, but so what?"
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Hopeful there because it's also the case of, well, you've got this information now, like you can listen to each other's tapes, and you go, "Oh, and I like to think that certainly when Joel, we only see from Joel's memory loss. We can see that maybe he's forgotten about Clementine, but maybe he's learnt a bit more about himself.
Yeah.
Maybe that has stuck in there as well, because he learns in there that, the times he's, the difficulty he's had with Clementine has been him not accepting Clementine.
Yeah, that's right.
And no doubt when Clementine has had her memory erased, she probably had a similar thing as that.
Yeah.
it's up to her. She's the reason why she's unhappy with Joel. He's not particularly doing anything different to what he was doing when you fell in love with him.
That's
so
right.
If anything's changed, then that would be kind of up to you to deal with.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean, it's also that Joel realised halfway through deleting the memories that he didn't actually want to delete the memories. So there's kind of even a little bit of hope in that, right? Like, even though we don't have the greatest relationship in the world, I kind of want to hold on to that. So it's exactly what you and I said. Like, why would you delete the memory of your dog? Because surely your dog hasn't been that bad.
yeah, I didn't have a bad relationship
But here,
with your
even
dog.
like with a bad relationship, he's realised halfway through, well, hang on, I still want to hold on to her. Like, I want to hold on to those memories. And so maybe that's the thing going forth. It's sort of forth in the future. It's kind of like, well, we can give this a crack again because why not? But it's also like, well, yeah, I've realised that I had a lot of attention issues from my parents, and I'm seeking that from you. But maybe that's wrong of me to do that. And how can we go over that? You know, learn from our mistakes as humans. But I think the film, I reckon, it's even more basic than that. It's just basically even just saying that, you know, in relationships, it's not Kodak perfect, and well, you got to accept that, really.
Well, in life, life in general, if you're going to enjoy
ups and downs.
and it's a Disney Inside Out movie, isn't it? In order to enjoy the good bits, like there are going to be bad bits.
There's going to be bad bits, yeah.
But yeah, maybe they contrast nicely. Like, if your life was just all the good bits, what would that be like? Really?
Well, that's the dilemma. If your life was all the good bits, how would you know they're good? There's the analogy to bubble your mind.
That's a thing, where you sit there and you go, oh, geez, not porridge again for breakfast.
Yeah.
And then you someone else down the road be going, you get breakfast? You lucky bastard. I remember I had breakfast once. It was so good. And you're like, so if you're always getting well fed and looked after and you're happy, you just, you don't even realise what benefit and privilege you have. And if someone says, oh, well, you've got so much benefit, you go, no, I don't. I've had to work for everything I've got.
That's right.
Right. You don't know what where you've coming from. And so if you only had good relationship parts, you go, oh, this relationship sucks. It's so boring.
Yeah.
And someone's looking at it going, but hang on, you're laughing and you're telling jokes, and
you've got someone to cuddle.
You talk and you cuddle and you share interests. Like, what? Yeah, so dull.
What's wrong with you?
I want a bit of spice in my life. You go, no, you don't. This is just a little, a little, hint of that blessing / curse, which is may you live in interesting times.
But also like the version that we are showing of Joel, right? Like you were saying before, like, maybe she is a lot of trigger warnings that you're going to get stabbed in the middle of the night. And maybe she will stab you in the middle of the night, Clementine. But also Joel is too dull. Maybe Joel needs to pick it up a notch.
He does.
What I mean? Like
he does have
like,
to
there's no point just sitting at home on the couch all the time. And you've got this beautiful woman with you that wants to go out and party. Well, maybe you need to take one for the team and go party one night a week with her. And that might make her happy, and then she doesn't want to go party out all the other nights,
Yeah,
so that's a compromise. That's a relationship, isn't it? Sorry.
Oh, damn. Oh, yes. Absolutely.
So, what about... That is the end of the film. Let us know what you thought about Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. And where does it go on your ladder, Surrey? Mine.
Mine.
No, you can go. Where have you got it queued up, or should I go?
We've got to do Galaxy Quest. I keep doing these voices.
Yes, we do. Okay, on my ladder, it comes in at number 20, which is about halfway, a little bit under halfway. I've got it after Replicas and before The Darkest Dawn. So I sort of see, we talk about something like Replicas. Again, look, the idea of the ladder is a little bit of an order of watching the films, not necessarily ranking best to worst or anything like that. It's more just follow this order and you'll have quite an enjoyable sci-fi viewing experience. So if I look at Replicas and then you come to, which is more, action-packed, alien, big kind of explosions, and you come into something like this, which is more in the mind and a little bit kind of inventive in the filmmaking style, and then you go to kind of like more of your YouTube down the track, cameras of Darkest Dawn and kind of following this little hodgy-podgy group in England fighting an alien invasion. I think that would kind of be a cool mix, those three films like that.
Yeah, well, I waxed at the top number 5 between
you've skyrocketed it up.
Between District 9 and Infinity.
Ooh, okay.
And,
exciting.
And I consider there are similarities. Infinity is a bit in the mind there, but I really like the idea of having Lobster, District 9, Eternal Sunshine, Infinity. You're going, it's that sort of Lobster and Eternal Sunshine are similar movies. If you watch them back to back, you might get a little bit overdone.
Yeah.
A bit overcooked. But you chuck in a District 9, and by the time you finished Eternal Sunshine, you're getting the whole brain warping things. Infinity had a lot of that sort of same time perception shifts, the order of operations turning around, but it had a bit of a religious slant to it. So
it did, didn't it?
Yeah,
it's cool.
I really think I like putting those movies together as a way of, I don't know, it sort of, I guess it reveals a bit about my taste in these sorts of things.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a great film, this one. Like, it's something that's very different. I've seen it quite a few times, and I really think that what you and I are describing, this whole idea of forgetting your memory of the film, is really a powerful statement of the filmmakers, because it's kind of we are having the experience of those characters.
It sort of reminded me a little bit of The Discovery too.
Yeah,
well,
I saw a lot of connections in The Discovery, yeah.
Yeah, which had a similar sort of memories and lives and so on. That's quite good for that.
Yeah, definitely. So, what science do you want to talk about? Sorry, I mean, I would imagine talking about memory loss.
Oh, absolutely. Let's talk about rewriting memories.
Rewriting sounds even more exciting.
There's a lot of interest in being able to do this. First of all, you've got the point that people lose memory from injury or from disease, like Alzheimer's.
Yep.
So, is there a way of sparking memories back? Maybe finding them again and resurfacing them?
Regrowth.
Maybe you want to talk about a criminal proceeding, and so you've got to talk to eyewitnesses, and are they really very reliable? And
no, they're not.
It turns out they're not.
No, they're terrible.
And the other one, of course, is PTSD and trauma.
Right. Yeah.
So if you've got these terrible fear memories, which trigger nightmares and terror, then what on earth can you do about that?
Yeah, how do we get rid of that? Sorry, I want to know more.
Well, there's lots of different ways, and there's the people are looking into use of psychedelics like LSD and psilocybin, and in say MDMA, which is your ecstasy.
Yep.
Because these are drugs which will disassociate strong pathways in your mind. So like LSD in particular, it breaks down a lot of your typical neuro pathways, and so you start having atypical thoughts. Yeah. Which is how you start seeing sound and hearing smells, and you get this synesthesia thing going on, and it also means that your memories come up, but the association between the memory and the pain can be weakened through therapy whilst undergoing a very low grade trip. Yeah. But that's not what interests me, because what interests me here is non-drug related sort of memory stuff. And there's a fair bit of work here by a couple called Jason C.K. Chan of Iowa State University and Jessica A. LaPaglia, also of Iowa State University. They've been doing research on the way memory works and the way memories can be changed. They've been doing this for a few years. So I've got some papers here from them they published. They've got one. They've got sort of two directions they've gone in. One is talking about traumatic memories which have an associate. Oh, sorry, no, that's Professor Johannes Graf.
Not the Graf paper.
The Graf paper. Well, they're talking about traumatic memories, but it's based on the effects of memory retrieval and context processing on eyewitness suggestibility, and impairing existing declarative memory in humans by disrupting reconsolidation. Right. So, PTSD, I don't have it, thank goodness.
No, neither
but
do I.
one part of the theory of its mechanism of operation is that you form a memory, and memories are more than just, sights that images you remember, that you are remembering your entire emotional state as well. Now, normally, the emotional state starts to drain away the feelings that you have, the way your body actually exists, the situation it's in normally drains away.
Yeah.
So you end up with being able to describe a situation. Like if you remember a really nice ice cream you had, unless you've got that super memory. There's some people who have like super memory.
They do, there's some people.
But you remember the really nice ice cream, that was really nice. You can describe that it was really nice and it tasted good. But if you try to remember how your body felt and what emotions you felt at the time, the further from the more distant you are, the less you can. You can only report, it was good. Or, like...
It tasted nice.
A dog jumped down and barked at you. Oh, I remember that. Oh, gee, that was pretty scary at the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't scare
me. It was so
me at
nice,
all.
but I didn't get a big enough scoop. But you don't really remember the sensations of it.
But in PTSD, it's like you get a cross-wiring, basically. The emotional state and the memory state get locked together so that when you get triggers, if you like, which cause recall of that memory... You also get a recall of the physical state. So if you have some trauma, like you've got a car accident or you've been attacked or you've watched some horrendous thing happen to someone or something, then that memory gets locked in there with that fear and that horror and that terror and that effect, and they become inseparable. And it's very difficult to undo it. So old Chan and LaPaglia, they said, okay, so you can stuff up a memory during what's known as the consolidation phase. And this is where PTSD sort of forms. So you have the experience and it's in your short-term memory and you have that initial, your body is feeling everything.
Yeah.
But then it goes through a phase called consolidation, which is where it settles into your long-term memory and it forms permanent pathways in your brain.
Right.
Including your physical state in the case of PTSD. And when you recall memory, every time you recall it, it comes up into your short-term memory, and then it's sort of dropped back in. It's reconsolidated, so it becomes reinforced in there, and you get a stronger remembering of it. Now, the interesting thing, the theory they put forward is they're going, well, okay, we know that when someone has something in short-term memory, and you can try this, say you've got to try and remember 10 numbers. And you're saying the numbers over in your head, and someone else then starts counting other numbers at you, and you get to like 3 or 4 in, and then you're going, shit, I can't remember it. Okay,
Definitely.
What they've done is they've disrupted your consolidation phase.
Right.
So they have thrown in some confusion interference.
Yes.
While you're trying to drop it into your permanent memory, and you can't do it. So we know that happens. So when you remember things later on, you also have this reconsolidation, which is you pack it back away, and that strengthens. And that's why the more often you remember something, the more you know it.
Yeah.
And
Practice
yourself
makes perfect.
as a teacher, I'm sure you have come across this or been taught something similar. That making someone do something 50 times over, they'll remember it the 51st time.
Yeah.
But can we disrupt reconsolidation in the same way? And thus break this pattern and stop the memory from being strengthened, in fact, distort it. Yes, we can cause a disruption in the reconsolidation phase. But to what effect? How does this go? And so they did this, the effects of memory retrieval and context processing on eyewitness suggestibility. So what they went and did, they went, well, let's not deal with PTSD people because that's probably rough and it's hard to get through the ethics committee that you're going to do experiments of this sort. So what they did, they got a whole bunch of people and they watched videos. They said, here, watch these videos as like a bank robbery and I don't know, something else. And so they got a whole bunch of people, made them watch this video, which is a series of events.
Yeah.
And then they got them to, they did a test on it. And so this is like the recall, reconsolidation. And then what they did, they went and one lot, they gave a narrative that was distorted. So then they said, oh, okay, so here's a summary of the thing. Outside the Citibank towers, the City Tower Bank, we see, customers coming and going, and Shirley, the head teller, is telling the employees to do such and such.
Yes.
But the reality was, it wasn't called the City Tower Bank. It was called Central City Bank.
Yep.
But the narrative goes on and just swaps just a couple little details like that here and there.
Yeah.
And then the people go back, oh, yeah, okay, yep, no. And they're following along the narrative, and at the same time they're recalling.
Yeah.
All right, because they're following the narrative, they're recalling, and then reconsolidating. And then you're going to go, okay, now we're going to give you a test and ask you about these things. And yeah, sure enough, what was tending to happen was more often these false misinformation was going in there. From the name of the bank to what was Shirley telling her employees.
Yeah.
And, did the bank robber pull a gun or did they pull a shotgun? How many robbers were in the bank and when did they run out? All these sorts of details could be swapped around. Then they got another group of people who watched it, and then they made them do the quiz to consolidate this memory. And then they did a test with misinformation in it. So the test was like,
ask the wrong questions.
Yeah, ask the wrong questions. What did the fifth gunman do?
Yeah.
And then the person goes, well, there were only 4 gunmen.
Yeah.
And what they found was that it actually didn't distort their memories. In fact, strengthen their memories.
Yep.
Because the contradictory information in a test format just didn't gel. It didn't work to recall their memory and then reconsolidate it. So they're looking at this for eyewitness testimony. So obviously, an eyewitness for a court case could be months or even years after the event.
Yeah, that's right.
Plenty of time for misinformation to get in there. And in fact, some unscrupulous people during interview not so much in asking questions. So when police or journalists interview and they ask direct questions and try to be misleading, you just get confusion. People go, no, what? So when you pulled the gun out and you held up the bank, I didn't pull my gun out. I didn't hold up a bank.
Yeah.
But if they sort of said, you were walking down the street and you walked into the bank, and the person go, I did. I walked into a bank, and you pulled your gun out and you shot someone. Yeah, I did. I pulled my gun out. And that's probably too strong a change initially. But you can imagine if you get this narrative over and over, just changing little details, eventually you could probably talk someone into believing that they committed a crime.
Definitely.
And they will then confess wholeheartedly believing they committed a crime.
Yep.
And this has been shown. But what it also means, though, is a means for treating traumatic memories could well be, and there are people who are furthering this investigation.
Definitely.
And without drug interaction, because some people don't want that or they react poorly. Because one of the problems, of course, is you could give someone drugs and then the fact that they know they've taken a narcotic can mess them up.
Yes.
So you maybe want to try a non-invasive technique, such as talking them through their traumatic experience slowly, but slowly changing little details at a time until finally you get a narrative which is basically the event, but without the horror.
Yes.
And they've tried this with video games. So they found that war veterans coming back from tours of duty who are a bit shaken actually perform better after playing war games.
Yeah, right.
Like Call of Duty type shooting games where they're in a military style conflict, and you think that would be triggering PTSD.
Yeah.
But because they're perfectly safe and they can reload the game, and their friends are just at a computer over there, and though in the game they died, they didn't really die. Yeah. Then they're sort of confronting similar memories, but they're rewriting them, reconsolidating with being, this isn't terrifying. Yeah. It's horrible to watch this carnage, but it doesn't,
there's an understanding
destroying.
There's an understanding of reality versus fiction. Yeah.
And I was thinking how this could apply to a bad relationship.
Very true.
And I'm not talking about one that actually causes traumatic PTSD here, because there are those sorts of relationships. I'm more talking about the sort they had here, where it was a bit tumultuous and a bit over the top, and it ends badly. We kind of do it anyway when we recount things to our friends. Yeah. And our friends could well interject with slight variations.
Definitely.
You could either sharpen the disappointment, the anger, or in fact lessen it.
Yeah.
I don't know that you could go to the point of totally deleting an entire relationship as if it never happened.
Yeah, it's interesting,
But
isn't it? But
maybe-
you can definitely rewrite the truth.
Maybe, yeah, you can rewrite it enough ways that you can do it. And I think we tell ourselves these stories as well.
Yeah, we
where
do.
we go over events and either, reduce our blame in the event, for
Yeah.
example, is a common
Yep.
thing to do,
Yep.
or increase the blame of someone else, or attribute things. So just something to be mindful of. And thank you very much, Chan and LaPuglia, for your research into this. Continue going, because it's very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And especially for those returning soldiers, like, it's a big call out to them, what they go through. And I've heard a lot about this, post-war, memories and the experience that a lot of the soldiers go through. And, it's lifelong pain, so
Oh, yeah.
these sort of experiments and that, they do need to work on, to make it a better return to normal living for a lot of those soldiers.
And we're talking about crimes and things. Yeah,
As well. Like
getting held at
victims.
gunpoint, for example.
Yeah, that's right.
Some people bounce it back from that. Other people, it's too much.
But isn't it true? A lot of and I don't want to go down that path, but like a lot of that mental health stuff, we're talking about it these last 10, 15 years, whereas even before that, they never talked about it much. So, yeah, these conversations, they have to happen. These experiments have to happen so that we can progress better into the future. Yeah. So let us know. Have you got any research about memory deletion?
Or the use of virtual reality, because they're looking at using virtual reality to reduce chronic pain, for example.
Interesting, yes. I must say, I just did see a little thing that a really elderly Japanese man who had sort of retreated and having some mental issues and Alzheimer's. He used to drive a taxi, and then his son got him onto computer games of like racing cars, and he suddenly came back to life. Like his mind recalled, and it really restored a lot of his memories and stuff like this. So, yeah, who knows? This is the kind of research they need to look into a bit more. So, let us know what you thought about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Do you have a spotless mind? I know I don't. I have a lot of weird memories and trauma and weird thoughts and ideas of the future.
I learned a new
parts
terminology.
of my brain that never stop talking, and therefore have to do podcast after podcast and all sorts of things. So if you know how to shut any of that up, let me know.
Yeah, let me know too, because sometimes... No.
That's right. And yeah, hit us up about the film festival, submit a film, make a film, let us know if you got any problems, you know where to find us on all our socials. Let us know what you thought about episode 59, which does mean that we are heading into a classic for next time.
Yeah, my wife has donated a classic, but we'll save that one yet. Because I like this next one here, which is a Terminator.
Okay, we're getting to the Terminator. It's another Arnie. Arnie seems to be a huge influence on our classics.
Well, he has been fortunate enough to wander in. And the Terminator is a great classic movie because it introduces some like concepts and ideas. It kicked off like a franchise.
Yeah.
It also elevated... Arnold Schwarzenegger, who should not have been a superstar, but he got the right movie at the right time, and
he did make a few good movies, other than just this one.
Not before this. No, before this one.
We'll talk about it next time. We'll talk about it.
Hercules in New York. Oh my goodness me!
But look, it's a superstar movie, and what does he have? Like 6 lines or something? Like
I think it's like 9 lines.
Yeah, people have talked about this. Like it was a perfect role for him, as in it wasn't about dialogue. It was just about being a really big burly guy.
We're going to have to talk about this next time because it's so many things about this movie excite me.
There is. And I just did see a little thing with James Cameron talking about it, something about Terminator, so I'll talk about that next time. Let us know. Hit us up on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of the places, email, website, and let us know what you thought. And stay tuned for episode 60. It's a classic next time. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.